All right, Duke fans, are you ready for it? Episode 797 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason and Donald here for you. It is, in the interest of fairness, just so everyone knows where things fall on the calendar and when news happens and things like that. We are recording this in the afternoon, the day after the Pittsburgh game, even though you're probably going to hear it a couple days after the Pittsburgh game. Donald, how you doing? Are you ready to chat with a special guest?
I'm always ready to chat with this guest. It's always fun to have him on, and it's been a while, so we have a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on.
There you go. We are joined, as we have been several times this year. We're trying to bring him on about monthly. I think we missed January. That was probably my fault because I was in Africa hanging out with gorillas. We're joined by Jordan Brenner of the Underdogs podcast, a guy who has written for more sports magazines, newsletters, newspapers, and all that other kind of stuff than I can possibly name in this moment. Jordan, how you doing, my friend?
Good. I'd just like to be referred to as Little League President Jordan Brenner from now on. That's really my current claim to fame. It's truly I'm doing God's work with young baseball players.
No, come on, tell me. I want to hear about your Little League.
It's draft
is this a
season.
new gig? Wait, is this a new gig for you? Because
I've been doing this for a couple of years. It's draft season now, so I'm spending every waking moment that I'm not doing actual work, creating formulas to rank 10-year-old baseball and softball players. It's really, I need an intervention.
I did this for years and years. In fact, I was the director of scheduling. Like, I scheduled all the games for both of my kids, both my son's leagues, as well as a couple other leagues. You want to talk thankless jobs? Oh my God.
Scheduling is the worst job on our board. Like, nobody wants it. I have to talk people into doing it every year. It's painful.
Yes.
But this is a nice break. This is a great break. I get to talk Duke basketball with you guys.
Exactly. Hey, dude, I'm going to start with this. Hey, the Blue Devils went out and they lost to North Carolina.
They did? That happened?
You may not have heard about that.
Oh.
On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being most concerned, how much did that loss concern you? Just hit it. Give me the number and then give me the explanation.
On like a concern level, like a 3, because I feel like, much like Texas Tech, they controlled almost the entire game. A couple things didn't go well down the stretch, obviously, but if you're thinking about where this team is, and if you're really focusing on two things. If you're focusing on tournament success, then you should be feeling pretty good because this team has shown that they will be in every game. They've either won every game or lost on a final possession. So you can't ask for much more than that. And if you're not focusing on tournament success and you're trying to enjoy the full ride, the way we've talked about early in the season, then it's frustrating to lose to your rival, but they're 22-2. So, low level of concern. I could totally understand as a fan being incredibly frustrated to lose to Carolina that way, but a lot went wrong that game, and they still should have won.
Jordan, I completely agree. This is something we should not be super concerned about. The team is, 2 losses on the year at this point. I said this on the pod the other day. It's just a super, super impressive record. It's just that one of them is to our really hated rival, and in both of them, as you pointed out, I know there are a lot of Duke fans who are like, oh no, I'm never going to feel comfortable with this team. They've blown 2 leads. I can't believe how many people have sort of brought up to me questions about, oh, are you worried about Jon Scheyer? Does he not know how to execute down the stretch? Personally, I think this is, you're rolling people can't see, you're rolling your eyes. I'm rolling my eyes too. I think this is absolutely ludicrous. It's like folks don't remember the game against Florida where it was
people
a tight
don't
game.
know people don't know basketball, and they pretend to, and it's very annoying because actually I take it back. There's lots of walks of life now where people act like they know a lot more than they do. But go talk to any other coach, not just in college basketball, but in the National Basketball Association or GM. They'll give you a read on whether John can coach and can coach down the stretch of games. Not everything can be controlled or planned. There are lots of reasons why things go wrong. And I'll say this, the concerned about the result, no. what both of Duke's losses revealed concerning things about the team, win or loss. The first one against Texas Tech was largely addressed, which was all the switching on defense. They were in a real defensive rut for about 3 or 4 games there.
Yeah.
And
Oh, for sure.
that's Texas Tech absolutely matchup hunted Duke down the stretch and then got the matchups they wanted and went one-on-one. So what did Duke's staff do? They changed the way they play defense. They reacted to a weakness, okay? And there's been a lot written and talked about now how they are not switching on as many screens, how they're using different coverages. To me, that's a great sign of a coaching staff when you're willing to adapt. And Jon has said a number of times, and if you listen, it's very clear. And I think it takes great humility and maturity to say and do these things, which is this. I think Jon has a vision in his mind of how he would want to play basketball, of how it should be played. In a perfect world, they're playing fast, they're switching everything, they're shooting a lot of threes, they're winning the battle in the paint, et cetera, et cetera. But that's for a generic team. Because of all the motion and player personnel in college basketball, you can't build your ideal team every year. So you do have to be able to adapt to what your team does best. So if this team needs to play a little more bully ball, this team needs to slow the pace a little more than Jon would like or anticipates because it helps this team's chances of winning, then it's what you got to do. And I think we all know there are a lot of coaches around the country throughout history who don't make those adjustments. So to me, one of the great signs about this program is a willingness to shift midstream when you self-assess and view things that aren't working well. The Carolina game, just to finish the thought, it's been in the back of my mind that there's a potential issue with foul trouble or injury among the bigs, because there's only 3 of them, right? Last year there were 4, and guys who could play minutes. Cooper Flagg could play the 4, et cetera, right? This year, it's Gongbo, Boozer, and Malik Brown. And now we've seen in the past 2 games, 1 where they're all in foul trouble, and then 2 where Gongbo doesn't play. So not having sort of that emergency guy who maybe doesn't play most games, but you can throw a big body out there in those cases, it is, it's a high-class problem to have.
Oh, yeah.
in college basketball, but it is something that worried me, and we've seen it. If you've followed Duke long enough, it's manifested in previous teams, so it's a little triggering, Jason. But again, high class problem.
Something you mentioned a moment ago, I want to go back to the notion of playing bully ball and Duke going inside, because Duke, starting around, I want to say around like the Stanford game, certainly when we got into like Wake and Louisville and Virginia Tech, Duke was really pounding the ball inside, getting 40 plus points in the paint in a lot of these different games. And the other side of that was not taking as many 3-pointers. Look, against Stanford, we take 10 threes. Against BC and North Carolina, 18 and 19. Against Pittsburgh just yesterday, even though the 3-pointers were falling more than they usually do, we only took 23. This is a team that earlier in the year was routinely taking 25, 27, 29, 30 plus 3-pointers. Do you think that Duke has sort of made a conscious decision, the staff, the players and the such, where what's working well for them? Have they made a decision to be like, all right, we're going to go inside more and shoot from outside a little bit less?
I think they, have made a commitment to get in the paint more. I don't think they've said like, don't shoot threes if you're open or you have the shot. I still think they want them to take open shots. That's what I'm seeing. It's just what they're running and what it's generating. The first option is trying to get something at the rim, I think. Now, it's bully ball with a twist, right? Because they're still playing 4 or 5 out. They're still using their centers largely as passers and facilitators from the high post. And they really do a beautiful job of constantly cutting, screening, moving off the ball. The number of backdoor cuts they get per game.
Oh yeah,
is like
it's gorgeous. Yeah,
like it's like they get more in a game sometimes than I feel like we saw like out of some Coach K teams an entire year, right? Like it's a very different. It's a very different style. I think, and you kind of heard, I forget which interview this was that Scheyer did, but when he was talking a little bit, and they talked about this during the game against Pittsburgh about Isaiah Evans' shot selection, right? I think they want guys taking the right threes. And I do think they're willing to live with a lot of misses from three if it's the right three. I think it's got to be frustrating to coach Isaiah Evans a little bit because he seems to have trouble distinguishing between the right and the wrong three. And it sounds, reading between the lines, like they probably showed him the numbers when they're talking about him being in the 20s when he's contested versus shooting it the way he did last year when he's open and his feet are set. But yeah, no, I think the three-point shooting is a concern, both in terms of who's taking him at what volume. And I know you and Donald, when we talked before the season, you thought this team was going to set some sort of record of three-point shooting. I didn't see that, but I do think that at some point, like, I think there's an opportunity for Darren Harris to earn more time. We saw it against Pittsburgh because they really do generate a lot of open corner threes that Dame Sarr and Nick Himania are just not hitting with any consistency. And if Darren Harris can be in that position a certain amount of time and hit those with greater regularity, I think he has to see the floor some.
Really? I mean, I'd love for it to happen. I love Darren Harris. And I lament the fact that he has just, almost fallen out of the rotation. It was great that he got significant minutes against Pittsburgh. But I don't know. I feel like we've seen kind of enough now to know that Jon maybe doesn't have full confidence in him when Big Pat comes back. Again, I'd love to see it. I just don't know that it's going to happen. It feels, this kind of gets me to, let me fold this into another question.
Yeah, sure.
Which is, we saw from Coach K over the years, oh, it's January. Oh, it's February. The rotation is shrinking. I think we're definitely seeing that from Jon this year. Darren Harris's minutes that he was playing, and I'm not even talking about games against, teams that are clearly outclassed. I'm talking about games against power conference teams in November, December, compared to the minutes he's getting now in ACC games. There's no compare. He was in double digits a lot, and now he's basically getting like 1 3-minute run in the first half, and then he's done. Nick Himania was playing 20-ish minutes per game, and now he's in the low teens and sometimes even less than that. Do you think we're seeing from Jon the sort of Coach K tendency of, the games are starting to matter more and more, they're getting a little bit closer, time to shorten that bench, rely on the 6-7 guys that I really trust more than everybody else?
Not necessarily. Not 6-7. Oh God, I can't even. I have children of that age.
I did not mean to do that. I apologize.
Yeah. And it's really played out, but it's still annoying.
Yeah.
So, no, I think.
By the way, for the record, neither you nor I made any hand gestures when we said 6-7. I want that noted.
I'm over it. I just need to go away completely. So listening to Jon post game UNC, he said something along the lines of it. He didn't actually intend to play Himania as few minutes as he did, and he actually said he should have gotten back in there. I think, first of all, Carolina is its own beast. Like, that game just has its own nature. I think Dame Sarr was playing so well that game at both ends of the floor that I think it impacted normal substitutions that would have been made over the course of that game. I think it was just an unusual situation. So no, I think this team will play minimum 8 if all the guys are healthy all year. But the reason I brought up Darren Harris, and it sounded like Duke was intending to play him a decent amount against Pittsburgh, even if Gongbo was healthy, is just because they do need shooting. And if you look at their perimeter guys, Caden Boozer's really not a perimeter shooting threat. I love
No,
I
no.
love his finishing around there, but that jump shot needs work.
Yeah.
We talked about the inconsistency of Sar and Hemania. They, Caleb Foster is shooting almost 39% from three. I sort of don't know why they don't get him more looks. And actually, for our we always have to talk about Caleb Foster when I'm on, so we'll get to that at some point. But I want to dive in there. But I just think, look, if you can shoot, you can play, and this team does need someone else that has a need for someone else who can knock down an open shot, especially on a night where everybody else is cold. So I'm not in the room with the coaches, but I certainly don't think they've given up on Darren Harris. And I think it would make sense to continue to find a way for him to potentially provide that shooting when it's needed. Let's see. But I have a feeling that much in the way Caleb Foster fought his way back into the rotation late last year, Darren Harris will be given the opportunity to fight his way in this year. And the Pittsburgh game was a good start to that effect.
Sure. All right. You mentioned Caleb Foster. I actually had a question teed up that I wanted to ask about him. I'm going to move my order of questions around a little bit and get to it right now. I feel like CFOS to me is super frustrating because I see some of the things he does to succeed. You mentioned he's a really good outside shooter. His ability to get downhill and finish in the lane, drawing contact and the such, is really impressive. Why doesn't he do it more often? That is the thing that I look sometimes and I'm like, oh, CFOS had 3 shots in this game. Why? What would it take for him to, if Caleb Foster would take 10 plus shots per game, Caleb Foster would be the second leading scorer on this team. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
If I could sit down with the staff right now and relax, staff, I'm not bothering you till the season's over at minimum. You guys have more important things to talk to me. But if I could sit down with them right now, that's sort of the one thing I'd love to sort of ask them about, because there are times where he looks dynamic getting into the lane. I mean, the Louisville game was Louisville was as amazing as we've seen him play at Duke.
I called in from a restroom on an airplane over the Atlantic to talk about it. That's how great it was.
Do we need to unpack that a little more? Like, I'm a little worried about you. But and look, second half last night, I thought he was terrific getting downhill. There are other times where he, Carolina applied a lot of ball pressure, and I think it took Duke out of some of what they wanted to do, and he didn't attack the ball pressure. There are other times he'll get into the lane and he has a habit of turning his back, pivoting away from the defense. And once you've done that, then you're just looking at the perimeter. You can't re-attack. He sometimes has some very clever, athletic, strong finishing moves. Other time he doesn't try to play through contact at the rim and he floats things up. And I don't know if he's avoiding contact because he's not shooting well from the free throw line, or
which is inexplicable, by the way, for a guy who shoots as well as he does from the perimeter. A guy is a career 38% 3-point shooter. Like, that's a good 3-point for him to shoot as poorly as he does from the free throw line is. And by the way, it's been his whole career. Like, he's 55% this year. He was just 63% last year. How can it's inexplicable?
But he looks like his finishing looks like it's Jekyll and Hyde. Like, he looks like 2 different people if you're watching him 2 different nights. It's not like one game he's only going to the rim 3 times and he still looks strong going to the rim. Like, there are nights where he won't do it, and when he does, looks awkward. And there are nights, it's almost like again, playing amateur psychologist, I think there are a couple games where he's like, oh my God, I can beat these guys over and over. And when he plays, and then it fuels his confidence. And when his confidence is high, everything else takes off. Like, the physical stuff follows the mental. I wish he had that attack mindset on a nightly basis. I don't know if Duke wants that from him or if they want to focus things more still on other guys, but I've seen a lot of good things when he runs pick and roll certainly the best pick and roll. I mean, he and Caden Boozer are the best pick and roll options Duke has right now.
Caden's really great. Caden's really great in pick and roll.
He has that. I know Duke doesn't want to run as much pick and roll, and I get that, but Foster has that burst, and he shoots pretty well off the dribble. I do wish they could generate more looks for him, and I there must be a reason why it's not a central part of the offense. It's just like most stuff I can sort of figure out on my own, and this one I'm a little confused by.
I got you. Hey, by the way, if folks, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, Jason's being an asshole, he's not letting Donald ask any questions, you should know that Donald's having computer problems, so he is no longer with us. But we're about to take a break. On the other side, we're going to see if we can get Donald back, and I'm going to ask Jordan a little bit about the ACC race. What teams does he worry about a little bit challenging the Blue Devils? We'll have that in just a moment.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
what do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Support for the Fans First Sports Network comes from Hyper Natural Style. Men's Journal calls it the best men's polo shirt of 2024. Hyper Natural offers polos, tees, and button-ups that deliver unmatched comfort and style. Hyper Natural is a new generation of clean bio-performance clothing that reduces impact on the planet as well as your own health. Hypernatural created the first ever shirts made from jade stone and crab shells. Supreme natural comfort and cooling performance without harmful chemicals and plastic polyester. Visit hypernaturalstyle.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. That's hypernaturalstyle.com using FFSN. Thank you for your support.
We're back from the break, and Donald Wine joins us again. Donald, computer problems hopefully fixed. Dude, ask your questions to Jordan.
Yeah. So Jordan, before my computer decided that it was probably not a good question I'm about to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. As we move forward towards the tournament, we've seen Duke kind of be labeled as one of the 3 teams alongside Arizona and Michigan, as kind of around those teams in that A tier of tier teams there. But when you look at the rest of the ACC, they're not getting as much of the credit for Duke being in a position where they are. Of course, they've kind of improved quite a bit from last year. But do you think in your mind that the ACC, A, is getting the credit it deserves, and B, will that come back to affect Duke's seeding when we talk about 1 seeds of the tournament, should we get to that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ACC is getting proper respect this year. I think the latest bracketology I saw, they had 8 teams in, and they've got, to whatever degree you think the rankings still matter, they've got 5 teams in the top 25. And look, I don't think I actually think, like, man, the 1 through 4 seeds this year, last year it was really about those 1s and 2s, and then there was a drop off. And I think this year the 3s and 4s and maybe even the 5s are going to be much stronger than last year.
Well, is it they'll be stronger, or that they'll be stronger relative to the top? I think a lot of it is relative to, like last year there were 4 teams that were just way better than everybody else.
Both. You're right. The top 4 may not be quite as strong as those top 4 last year, but I also think, like, if you took the 3s and 4s from last year and put them up against the 3s and 4s this year,
that's a great
this year's
point.
Teams would beat them. So, should lead, I think, to a more interesting, more random march. But, like, I don't put a UVA or a Clemson at the level of some of the, the 2nd through 5th place teams in the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the, we can discuss the SEC another time, but
no, it's the Big 10 and the Big 12 are the
right.
Deeper conferenes for sure. Yeah,
sure. Like a Purdue is better than those teams. Michigan State is better than those teams. Iowa State is better. Yeah. At least I think.
And when
so.
you think, Yeah, and I think, when you think about the one seed line as of right now, and we're recording this, they haven't released the top four seeds that they do a month out. I expect that Duke would be a one seed, and the question is basically going to be between Duke and UConn for that Eastern regional. I think they're the two teams that are kind of locked in, or at least competing to be the one seed in that particular region. So maybe it's a question of ACC versus Big East. I think the ACC is there, but of course I'm biased. What do you think?
I don't think we're there yet. I think both those teams could play their way off the one line. It's feasible. There's both teams have a lot of tough games left. They could be three seeds.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about that right now. I mean, Duke's got Clemson coming up. They got Virginia. They got State. They got Carolina again. Like, take care of your business. You take care of your business, you'll be.
Dude, we got Michigan.
Yes, I was just thinking of the
nice little barometer there. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, there are several teams, right? Look at the number of teams that have 2 or 3 or 1 loss. Like, it's very, very top heavy this year. So no, I don't think. I think it's too early to be worrying about a head-to-head matchup for number one seed or who gets DC or whatnot. Like, Duke's just got to go keep winning games.
We're not going to erase Miami of Ohio from this equation since they're the last undefeated team. But I digress. Let's get back to Duke, because I think one of the things that's come up lately has been the second half ruts that they're in, and whether they overcome those or not. Of course, that's most of the time they've done that, save for the game against UNC. But what do you think is the answer, if there is an answer, for Duke figuring out how to not have these ruts in the second half that allow teams that are, of those teams that we just spoke about, if we were able to face them, to have an opportunity to come back and bite us in the end?
I think we have to be careful not trying to draw too many patterns out of a small sample size, right? So, like, yes, Duke didn't play well in the second half against Carolina and Boston College, but Duke played better in the second half against Pittsburgh. I don't remember the second half being an issue against Virginia Tech and Louisville. So, like, just like the team was having slow starts for a much longer period of the season, I just think things ebb and flow over the course of a long season for a variety of reasons. So, like, I'm not particularly, I don't think there's like Duke has a problem coming out of the locker room, or there's some sort of like issue there, nor do I think there's something that's fixable, right? Like, it's not like you can't just say like play better in the second half. Like, they're playing the same guys. They're making adjustments. Like, sometimes the other team fights back. Sometimes the other team's trying to win too, So I know, again, Jason and I talked about this, but people might go back and look and say, well, both the Duke's losses, they blew double-digit leads. Well, they have to lose some way. Would you rather they get blown out? What's the right way to lose? I guess is my point.
I don't think there's a right way to lose, but we've talked on the show. We even talked last year, Jordan, when you were on, about not having a lot of these close games, and the idea that would come back to haunt us in the end. And in a way it did, but like, it wasn't a pattern, right? And for me, I've always said, I want us to blow every team out by 40, because that's fun. And I don't have to worry about the question about the close games, what we could do. And I think in the absence of, like you said, a larger sample size, people are trying to reach for the details to figure out what they can do to get better. So my last question to you, at least, will be, what is that thing that we can improve on over the next month as we get towards March?
Well, I do think this team has played more tight down the stretch games than last year's team did. Like, they win and lose. So I think they're better for having been in those situations. And by the way, the interesting thing about the Carolina game, they got look, should they have let Carolina fully back into the game? Probably not. Did missing Gangba make a big difference? Yeah. Was the foul discrepancy ridiculous? Yes. Bottom line, tie game, they ran exactly what they wanted to force the switch, and got Cameron Boozer isolated. got to the lane, got a great look around the rim. Like, you can't complain about that. That's execution. That, by the way, that is not Cooper Flagg shooting a fadeaway from 15 feet. That is, you'll take that downhill drive from him at the rim every time. So, like, in a lot of ways, that's a good sign. They just didn't finish, right? So
yeah, dude. By the way, dude, I said the same thing, and I was like, he either finishes that or gets fouled 80 plus, maybe 90 plus % of the time. That was an outlier for that play to end the way it ended.
And who did he? Was he finishing? I gotta remember. Was he finishing over Vesar, right?
Vesar.
And
Vesar.
I thought Vesar had hands on his left shoulder on that.
Of course, yeah. The refs ain't calling. Refs weren't calling anything. Nothing.
Right. But so whatever. That's like, to me, it's like, okay, you played in those conditions and you're still right there. So, like, this team fought through it. I think. Look, I like we were talking about in sort of the segment on Darren Harris. I'd still like to see this team continue to generate the right 3-pointers and take the right 3-pointers and stop taking the Isaiah Evans, heat check 3-pointers or just feet aren't set. So if you're not a great shooting team, you've got to maximize the types of attempts you get. So that's one area I'd like to see the team improve. I still think they got to cut down on turnovers a little bit. It's cropped up a little bit here and there. And, in terms of fixable issues, right? You can't fix the depth inside. It is what it is. But yeah, and then just continue to, man, if Caleb Foster could flip that switch that we've talked about has been on at a couple points, gives this team look. Literally, I've been saying this to you guys since September. His better Caleb Foster gives this team another gear, because I don't think at this point we're getting difference maker Caden Boozer, difference maker Nick Hemania, and I think Dame Sarr has found a very clear and important role, but it's not going to be like a dynamic playmaker role.
All right, dude, that was awesome. As always, we enjoy it. Jordan Brenner, we'll be back. Hey, we'll have you on around the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament. And when we do, it's your job. You're the underdog man. Actually, we're going to have you on right before the bracket. That's right in your wheelhouse. I need to know which teams to bet on. Not like in my bracket.
It's interesting that you want that preview and not the Little League season outlook, because I can do that too.
How many home runs is your son going to hit?
My son's you know how old I'm getting? My son is aged out of Little League. It's depressing.
Oh my
God. Really
God.
depressing.
I remember them days.
But my daughter's going to hit some bombs. So let's go.
There you go, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. That's going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason, part-time Donald and his computer, and Jordan Brenner. We appreciate you, buddy. Here's the Duke band playing us out and taking us home.